Hello everyone, it's me, Travis of Giggles and Bits, and it's been a while since I've recorded videos. It's because I've been slogging through my, I make it sound like I'm editing a masterpiece here, and I'm not. I'm just trying to make it interesting. Oh my god, what is wrong with me? Anyways, I want to talk about 3 isekai animes that I've recently just finished watching or in the middle of watching because one of them's got new episodes coming quite a bit. Unfortunately, there's only one season so far of these, or at least the first season is in the process. But I wanted to talk about these because while they're isekai, and I felt like I was getting kind of burned out by isekais, these 3 stand out to me because they're providing me something a little different. Although, granted, all 3 of them have one glaringly annoying, I should say, theme that goes across all of them, including a couple of other animes, and it's an overpowered protagonist. To say the least, these 3 animes approach things a little bit differently. There are mangas out there. I haven't had a chance to read the mangas for these. I'll have to figure out where I can read these. I think these are really good. I mean, it's not quite like Our Ferretta, where the main protagonist ends up becoming a super badass because he's trapped in a dungeon or whatever. I mean, that's kind of like, I guess that one's an isekai as well, which is, it's interesting, but I don't know, that's more of like it's definitely harem style, and I feel like all of these are harem style, but nothing wrong with that. That one just seems to be a little bit more eki, I guess. I don't, is that the proper term? I'm still fairly new to all of these terms, and while I've been watching anime for, gosh, a long time, I almost said a word that involved several decades. Um, these I have found kind of fun in the way that they approach some of the issues, and they're not, while they, while they might seem like they're the same, they approach issues very differently, and I'm enjoying that. I've been sort of bored with modern entertainment, so here in stateside, so I've been exploring multiple animes. I'm not an expert. I'm just sort of finding things that I'm diving into things that I normally wouldn't watch and have found incredibly enjoyable, just to take them in on sort of the journey that the author has chosen to take us on. So the first one I want to talk about here, this one's fairly new, but the manga's been around for quite a while. Let me pull this up. So we have Tsukumichi Moonlit Fantasy. As you can read here on the Wikipedia page, it began serialization online in 2012. It's a user-generated novel published website. Shotsuki. I'm gonna butcher that, so I'll just highlight that for you guys, and you can read it yourself. I don't want to butcher them and bring dishonor on my family. I just finished watching the first season of this, or at least the first little bits that are currently available. It does say here that there's a second season. I'm glad. The things that I like about this, so first off, the protagonist gets brought in. He's summoned by a goddess, obviously. I mean, you're going to hear that theme quite often, except for one of the 3. But if you've watched any sort of isekai or read isekai, there's usually a goddess that summons him. With this particular one, the goddess summons him. He ends up meeting a lesser god, a demigod, that he knows and really respects, and he gets moved on. The goddess thinks that our protagonist is ugly and hideous, so she basically gives him a few things, makes it impossible for him to communicate with the humans in the world, and dumps him in the wastelands with a bunch of monsters. But before he lands there, he ends up being blessed with freedom by the lesser god, the demigod that he met. He is basically OP. His strength doesn't really register within the world's rules, because every time he goes to get his level measured by a leveling scroll, it's an isekai thing, he always comes up as level 1, but when you see him fight, he's clearly way stronger, way faster, and capable of unleashing more mana than I think any of these people have ever seen before. Uh, to the point that the first main fight that he gets, the first big fight that he gets into is with a greater dragon. Basically, ends up submitting this dragon, enters into a contract with them, and that turns into this. Blue-haired lady right here who is quite funny, and then later he ends up gaining this person. As I don't want to ruin anything if you haven't seen it. If you have seen it, let me know your thoughts on this particular adaptation. I found it quite funny, just the way they kind of treat the thing. So to me, this is definitely worth checking out and give it a chance because it's got its own unique kind of flair, and I enjoyed this one quite a bit. So that's just a recommendation. I'm not saying that it's better than any of the others. I just happened to come across them, and I think uh, I enjoyed it. And if other people enjoy it, check it out. The next one I want to talk about. This one's a little well, let's talk about let's talk about this one because this is more similar to Moonlit Fantasy than it is the final one that I'm going to talk about. And this is Black Summoner. Black Summoner, we have a very cocky and self-assured individual who doesn't remember his past. Basically, he gets summoned by a goddess, right? I told you. In order to gain more power and more skills, or experience to put into skills, he opts to have all of his memories erased. So his entire life experience is removed, but apparently that doesn't affect his ability to play games because he understands sort of the world layout. And if you're familiar with some of these isekai, that while it's not a game, it sort of feels like they've been tossed into a fantasy game. Whether it's Overlord or Sword Art Online. Sword Art Online, at least they can get out. In this particular instance, he goes in as a summoner, which is incredibly rare in this world. So instead of choosing to be a outright, out in the open hero with all the fame and glory that comes with it, he's chosen to attempt to play it low-key. This is something that is common to our last isekai that we're going to look at. The character, all in all, it seems like a very good person. He tends to care about people even though he doesn't want to draw a whole lot of attention to himself because summoners are very rare and he is the strongest summoner. The goddess that brought him here actually was so flattered by the professions of love that he made to her. She decided to go with him and become one of his summons. Unfortunately, she is a god tier summon, and no matter what he does, according to what we've learned so far through the series, he's not going to be able to summon her. So she actually disappears for a little bit. This anime is actually still going. The episodes are still getting released. So I'm still in the middle of watching it. So far, it's been quite fun to go through. It's a little jarring. Some of the fight scenes switch over to a 3D animated style, and I do have a bit of a problem with that. It sort of takes me out of the show. Take that away, the rest of the show is really, really good and fantastic and well put together. Again, it's still in the process of airing, so as it stands right now, it's got me invested, and I look forward to seeing where this season ends, and I dread the gulf between season 1 and season 2, as it seems like it takes forever for us to get any sort of follow-up seasons to a lot of these. It's labor-intensive work, so I'm not going to belittle or hammer any of the artists or studios that are working on these. It's tough. Like animation like this is very, very tough. Hopefully the jarring CG fight scenes that they do introduce sort of cut some corners for the development and we get a little bit of a faster show. I don't know why I think about that stuff, but I don't know. It's quite fun. It's very good, and I think everyone should give it a go. Quite a fun thing. And the last one that I'm going to talk about, which was, I avoided this show so much because I'm watching Overlord, and I was just like, okay, what? Another skeleton? Like you see these like certain like common themes that are popping up. This is vastly different from Overlord, and I'm kicking myself for waiting so long to get into it. Skeleton Knight in Another World, fantastic, super fun. lighthearted. This guy seems like he should be like the most serious, ridiculous, overpowered individual. He is ridiculously overpowered, but he's not serious. He's actually thinks he's holding back sometimes, which makes it quite funny. In that he jumps in and just destroys everything that he comes across. I look forward to seeing if he ever really gets challenged, but maybe he's sort of a Saitama style character and doesn't really understand his own strength in this world. I don't really know, but it's quite endearing to see his character gently roll through life and get into these horrible situations where he has to act and ends up bringing massive amounts of death and destruction upon the people that stand in his way. So, kudos to the folks that are working on this. It's animated beautifully. The visuals are fantastic, and if it weren't for the violence, I probably would be showing this to my wife, but she can't stand anything with violence, so she's probably never going to see this one. Sometimes she works up the courage to sit through it if it's a really, really good one. And this is a really, really good one. So it's a possibility. It's not totally out of the question for her. Yeah, no. These are great. If you guys like these animes and you want to see me do a deep dive of some of the things that I like about these animes specifically, let me know. I'd be happy to do so. I want to review more stuff, especially anime, because I feel like this is where it's at. Manga as well. I've been reading a lot of mangas. I've got a bunch queued up. Hey, if you guys liked any of these animes, if you've read the mangas, let me know. Comments down below. If you like this video, leave a like and subscribe. I'm working to produce more content. I'm trying to improve the quality here and bring something not necessarily different, but sort of like be a fan and geek out with things. I'm not an expert, but I'm interested in this stuff, and it's quite fun, and I think we need a lot more fun in this world. On top of, if we start looking at the stuff that's actually good, then maybe the rest of the entertainment industry will realize that what we want is to be entertained, not preached to. So, that's all I've got to say. Adios.